Of the 45 men who served as United States President, the majority have served only a single term or less. Of these 24 presidents, 13 served a single term and 10 served a partial term. 5 of the partial term presidents died before completing their term, and 5 served out the remainder of a term after the preceding president's death or resignation. Of the first 7 presidents, only 2 were single-term presidents. Second President John Adams and his son, 6th President John Quincy Adams. After John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson served 2 terms, and after his presidency came the nation's longest consecutive string of single and partial-term presidents, stretching from the 8th president to the 15th. Martin Van Buren was Andrew Jackson's chosen successor. In the election of 1836, he won against Whig William Henry Harrison. However, during his presidency, he proved to be far less popular than Jackson, and failed to win in a rematch against Harrison in 1840. Harrison, however, wouldn't enjoy his presidency for long, dying only a month later, making him not only the first president to serve a partial term, but also the president with the shortest term. As he only became president because of Harrison's death, John Tyler didn't serve 4 full years as president. Tyler, a former Democrat turned Whig, was ousted from the Whig Party months into his presidency. Widely disliked by others in Washington, and without a party, he had virtually no path to re-election in 1844. Democrat James K. Polk was a single-term president, but not for any lack of popularity or success. When originally nominated by his party, he promised that if elected, he would only serve a single term. Zachary Taylor died less than 2 years after becoming president, so it's unclear if he would have ever earned a second term. He was the second president to die in office. His vice president, Millard Fillmore, then served as president for the remaining 2 years. Fillmore, however, wasn't renominated by the Whig Party in the next election. Instead, they nominated General Winfield Scott. Democrat Franklin Pierce ultimately defeated Scott, but by the time of the next election, he had become very unpopular in the North due to his support of pro-slavery groups. Like Fillmore, he wasn't nominated again. As such, the next Democrat candidate and president was James Buchanan. Buchanan was widely criticized for his handling of national divisions. He had promised to serve a single term during his inauguration, though it's unlikely he could have won a second term. Upon meeting with incoming President, Republican Abraham Lincoln, Buchanan said, "If you are as happy in entering the White House as I shall feel on returning to Wheatland, you are a happy man." Abraham Lincoln would be the first president in over decades to be elected to an additional 4 years, though his second term lasted only a month, as he was killed by an assassin. Lincoln's vice president, Andrew Johnson, served nearly a full term. After a presidency so controversial that he was impeached and nearly kicked out of office, he wasn't able to even secure the Democrat nomination. Following the 2 terms of Republican Ulysses S. Grant was a single term of Rutherford B. Hayes. Hayes was the first of many Republicans to only serve a single term. It's unknown if Hayes could have won re-election. Upon being nominated, he had pledged not to run a second time. His close political ally and fellow Civil War veteran, James A. Garfield, succeeded him as president, but served only a few months, becoming the second president and second Republican to be assassinated. Chester A. Arthur served a partial term, finishing out Garfield's. He didn't make a serious effort to gain the Republican nomination in the next election due to mounting health problems, and he ended up dying only a year and a half after leaving office. Benjamin Harrison's single term was bookended by the 2 non-consecutive terms of Grover Cleveland, making Harrison the only president to be preceded and succeeded by the same man. William Howard Taft's single term was practically guaranteed to be his only one. When in the election of 1912, his much more popular predecessor, Theodore Roosevelt, ran third party, thus dooming them both to a loss against Democrat Woodrow Wilson. Like William Henry Harrison and Zachary Taylor from decades prior, Warren G. Harding never got a chance to run for re-election. He died of a heart attack, though his presidency was at least 2.5 years, and his successor, Calvin Coolidge, did succeed in winning a full term of his own. Following Coolidge was Republican Herbert Hoover. Hoover had won in 1928 against Al Smith with 58% of the popular vote and 84% of the electoral vote. He would be defeated by similar margins when he ran against Franklin D. Roosevelt in the following election. Every president from 1933 to 1960 would serve 2 terms or more. For 100 years prior, any 2-term president, such as Ulysses S. Grant or Woodrow Wilson, had been immediately preceded and succeeded by single-term presidents. John F. Kennedy would be the first Democrat in nearly 100 years not to serve 2 terms. The last Democrat not to be elected for a second time was Andrew Johnson, who assumed office in 1865 and left in 1869. However, when Johnson was elected as vice president to Abraham Lincoln, he was technically a member of the National Union Party. The last single-term president elected as a Democrat prior to Kennedy was James Buchanan. The next single-term president after John F. Kennedy was Gerald Ford. Ford only assumed office after the resignation of Richard Nixon. In fact, Ford was never even on the presidential ticket, as Nixon's running mate had originally been Spiro Agnew. Nevertheless, Ford would gain the Republican nomination in 1976, despite considerable opposition from conservatives within the party. He failed to win the general election, losing to Democrat Jimmy Carter. Unlike Kennedy and Ford, Carter would serve a full single term, but was defeated decisively by Ronald Reagan in the following election. After Reagan's 2 terms, his vice president and successor, George Bush, only served a single term, failing in his re-election bid. Altogether, the 20th century would see only half of the single-term presidents that the previous century had, the 20th century with 7 and the 19th century with 14. Following a long stretch of 2-term presidents, Donald Trump became the first president in 24 years not to be elected to a second term. As of this recording, in 2023, Democrat Joe Biden is serving his first term. Also, as of this recording, both Trump and Biden have expressed their intent to run for second terms in 2024. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching The 2-Term Presidents, or Presidents Who Ran for Third Terms. To support this channel, consider subscribing and donating to Resyndicated on Patreon. Patreon link in the description below.